My guest today on Entre Nous is an illustrator, interpreter, and graphic novel author who has put all of those things together in a series of delightful books that make perfect gifts for the holidays or just about any time. David Rault, hello, welcome to France 24.
Hello, thank you for welcoming me.
So David, your new book that's out now in French is called Couleurs, or Colors. So you start this book by saying that we think we understand color, but we're wrong. What do you mean by that?
Well, colors are everywhere around us. We are surrounded by colors, but it's a fact that we don't really know how they work and how they interact with everyone around us, including us. You know, why do we feel excited when there is red all around us? Why we feel actually calm where there is blue? You know, this is all those kind of things that we don't really think about too much, and I wanted to explore that in the book.
And you kind of look at it from two angles. You look at it scientifically, but also emotionally. Why this dual approach?
Because colors are actually both. They do have an impact on a biological level, let's say, but it's also depending on the culture, on the upbringing, the education of anyone on the planet. You know, the fact that, for example, to us, the black is the color of grief, but if you go all the way to Japan, then suddenly it's white. You know, it's all those little differences which I find fascinating.
And you dedicate an entire section in the book to the psychological impact of colors. What color would you say is the most misunderstood? Is it black?
I think, according to me, that would be orange. Why? Because if you think of orange on a, let's say, historical way, in the 60s, 70s, orange was very present in everyday life, in the interior design, for example. Then it became kind of playful. Then it became kind of cheap, you know. And for example, you know, the brand EasyJet, the airline company, uses orange heavily in its image in order to give the feeling that it's cheap, you know, and it does work, but exactly at the same time, if you just desaturate orange a little, then it's like top luxury Hermes, you know, for example. So it's a color that is, it's a color with a lot of discrepancies, and I think it's really interesting, and it's mostly misunderstood.
So the book, throughout the book, it's told through illustration. It's a graphic novel, basically. Why did you choose this kind of comic book format to talk about color? Just because it was the best way to show off color?
Mostly it's because there was a few, but there wasn't a lot of comic books to talk about this subject. And I think it does speak to another audience. And it also gave me the opportunity to use different tools in the same shape. With one comic book, you are explaining things, there's text, there's also examples that you see right there. Everything is happening all at once, and it's playful.
And what's great is you also did that in an earlier book, which exists in English, called ABC of Typography. Just tell us a bit more about why the interest in typography. Why did you want to talk about what some people call fonts, other people call type?
Yeah, well, it goes all the way back to my childhood, actually, when I was interested in the shape of letters and why some words are written, you know, differently depending on the font you use, and also the psychological effect of each font, you know, because when you write something, well, you say something, but the way you write it is giving a feeling, is giving, you know, ideas, and it's sometimes actually it can take you to another direction, you know, a sub speech, I would say. This is again something that always interested me, and I wanted to talk about the history of typography in a comic book form.
Right, and you start, you know, understandably with Gutenberg. The Gutenberg Bible is the inventor of the printing press. But you were saying there's a misconception about Gutenberg. What's that?
Yes, because Gutenberg is mostly seen today as the inventor of the printing press, which is not true. You know, basically, he didn't invent printing press. Printing press existed thousands of years before, you know, in China, in Asia mostly, but not only. No. What Gutenberg created is really typography, as we understand the world today, which is, you know, the creation of movable letters, movable types, actually metal types. Although at his time it was wooden, but then metal. And he is the creator of typography, and I think this is the biggest misconception about Johannes Gensfleisch, which is, by the way, his real name.
David, we just have a minute and a half left.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, two examples. You say that Gil Sans feels warm, Futura feels cold. We're going to bring those up on screen. Just tell us why. Why does one feel warm and the other feel cold?
Well, actually, it's pretty easy to understand. Gill Sans is the British font, which we find everywhere in England. And Gill Sans was designed by Eric Gill, and Eric Gill heavily based his design on the humanistic forms, which means that the influence of the hand is very present. You have the thick and thin strokes, etc. It feels warm because it's human. But when you compare it with Futura, which was designed by Paul Renner, a German citizen in the early 20th century, Futura, the influence of the hand is completely gone. And then he relied heavily on rulers and compass, so it's extremely geometrical, very useful. It goes to the point, but the warmth of the human touch is gone. So that's why it feels cold as mechanical.
David, thank you so much. It's fascinating stuff. So the book in English is called ABC Typography, and your new book that exists in French is called Couleurs. David Rault, thank you so much for coming on Entre Nous today.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks to you for watching. Stay with us here on France 24.